Barney theme songs. I like them. And if you've been around this channel before, you probably know that. So I decided it was time to give my definitive ranking. Before we dive in, here are a few ground rules. This list will include the main 2 Backyard Gang intros and Campfire Sing-Along, Barney and Friends seasons 1 to 14, both Hebrew intros, and the Korean intro. No live shows or album versions because those aren't intros, they're just theme songs. The ranking will be based on how good the song itself is, the instruments and vocals, and the visual content, like the opening animation, the clips used, the timing, the visual effects. Then I'll place each one into whatever tier I feel fits. If you fellas at home want to play along, I'll link the tier list in the description along with this amazing video detailing every version of the Barney theme song, and more that aren't in this video. I bet the person that made that video was a pretty cool guy. I of course won't be able to audibly play any of these for more than a few seconds because of copyright issues, so again, check them out if you want a refresher. Got all that? Awesome sauce. Welcome to the Barney Desk. Up first, we got the original Backyard Gang intro, the one that started it all, the one that said, hey, let's take Yankee Doodle, throw in a Bahardini, and hope no one sues us. Surely we'll get away with this every time we try and use a real song by changing the lyrics, never mind. There are definitely aspects of this intro that don't hold up, like the poor video quality, but honestly, those quirks kinda add to its charm. This and the next 2 intros bear the closest resemblance to Yankee Doodle itself, keeping that military-style march feel with the drums. Instrumentally, it's pretty empty, just some drums, bass, flute, occasional keys, some harp strings, and finally a kids choir. What makes it feel even emptier is the fact that the song's instruments just stop every 3 seconds. Take a listen without the vocals. Speaking of those vocals, they're probably the funniest part of the song, because they're not just singing the words, but they're screaming them. They are yelling the notes like their lives depend on it.
Little Tina tags along with her big sister Lucy.
That being said, if you listen to this on loop for a while, I'm sure they'd become pretty irritating. Visually, it's fine. The logo style is simple, purple circles, a yellow rectangle through the middle, but it works. The kid name graphics were a nice touch, and while that would have gotten redundant if they were brought into Barney and Friends considering the show's revolving cast, they were appreciated here. Oh, and don't forget Sandy Duncan. That all being said, the pacing is slightly off. Most of the shots of the kids that they use aren't that interesting, just them standing in front of a backdrop, with a few performing some kind of action. Most of the clips are pulled from the Backyard Show for some reason, with a handful from 3 Wishes. Fun fact, the 3 Wishes clips show early versions of the backdrops used for blue screen scenes, like when the pool is flying or when Barney spins around. It's not perfect, but it's a pretty good start. The first Backyard Gang intro goes into a low C tier. Not bad, Blue Dog. Next up, we got the second BYG intro, and this is just a better version of what came before. The drums still have that military feel, but the rest of the instrumentation has been given an overhaul, making it sound a fair bit more whimsical. Despite still stopping every 3 seconds, there's definitely more musical substance here. The vocals are also an improvement. While they're still being yelled, they're noticeably less screaming, and they actually do manage to stay on key. Visually, this one is much stronger. The clips are far more dynamic, and everything here just screams bigger budget. At least the new clips do, because the biggest drawback here is the amount of reused footage. Ignoring the introduction of Derek and the removal of Sandy Duncan, all of the kids' shots get reused, and they even keep in a Backyard Show clip that shows the original blue and very much not purple Barney. This one is a high C tier. Good job, guys. Now we got the Campfire Sing-Along intro, which is a weird edge case. It's literally just the second Backyard Gang intro, but with one change. New kid Jeffrey replaces Adam, because Adam's actor was sick at the time. Since they had to swap him in, they also had to re-record the line where his name is said, but for some reason they decided to re-record way more than they needed to, like from Derek's part all the way to right before the last verse, which feels kinda unnecessary. The reason I find this very strange is because the kids are noticeably off key for this entire re-recording, like painfully off. It might even be an entire key lower than the original.
Derek is in Barney's club and Adam has a ticket, but Mom has never seen him 'cause she doesn't know our secret. Derek is in Barney's club and Jeffrey has a ticket, but Mom has never seen him 'cause she doesn't know our secret.
That's what sinks this one, because it just doesn't sound very good. Low D tier. Moving along to the brand new series at the time, Barney and Friends Season 1 takes the best elements from Backyard Gang and improves on them tenfold. This is truly an iconic intro, possibly the most recognizable of the entire franchise. The increase in the tempo gives everything a much needed boost in energy, making the theme feel much more exciting and punchy, and thankfully, the song no longer stops every 3 seconds, with the instruments continuing throughout every verse. The horns do some incredibly heavy lifting here, particularly in the intro and the ending. They add a grand, almost theatrical quality that makes the whole thing feel really exciting. The vocals aren't yelled anymore, thank heavens, and sung quite well. The lyrics were also reworked to focus more on the fun and learning with Barney instead of name-dropping specific kids. Visually, what an upgrade. That opening animation is instantly recognizable, and there's a reason it's at the gold standard for the rest of the series. It's just that well done. The silhouette of Barney, while eventually replaced with a more famous one, was likely inspired by the Backyard Gang picture book art style. Another fun fact for you. This intro also absolutely nails the shot timing. Everything has a purpose and lands on beat, whether it's the obvious touches like showing the ABCs and numbers during that verse, or the smaller details like Michael's robot costume opening exactly when the cymbal crashes in the song. And of course, you got the legendary tire swing shot with the Barney doll and the rainbow. Easily one of the most recognizable visuals from the entire franchise. The Season 1 doll itself might be a little off model, but it's still incredibly cute and the perfect way to close out the intro. This will be our first S tier. Way to knock it out of the park. Season 2 is an odd one, not because it's bad or anything, but because I don't hear it talked about nearly as much as Season 1's intro or the one directly after. The song itself is unchanged, which is a good thing, but they did add a harp sound when the intro animation disappears, which I like. It's cute. The intro animation is clearer with a noticeable blue tint and a sparkle effect as it disappears when the harp sound plays, all of which I think is pretty cool. The opening shot of the kids greeting Barney as he transforms is, in my opinion, much stronger, and the transformation effect has been reworked to look cleaner too. That being said, I do miss the doll sitting on the tire swing, but I suppose it's fine since the tire swing shot, despite using an entirely different doll in the same intro, is still here as the closer. Some of the shots work really well. The scene with Barney and Min is a standout, but some of the others feel kinda odd. These in particular I always found looked kinda strange. I also found some of the shots used of Barney kinda make him look strange. This baseball shot in particular, because it kinda just freezes for a second and the costume bunches up. I don't know, it makes him sort of look like a mascot costume ever so slightly, so it kinda breaks the illusion for me.
I'm not a big fan of that.
This is minor, but the shot they use for the ABCs line doesn't switch to another shot during 1, 2, 3s. It's not a big deal, but it stands out to me. It's not as strong as Season 1's, but it still has its moments. For that, it's going in B tier. Imagine entering a best Barney theme song contest and your opponent is Season 3. You lost before you even started. The production team knew they cooked with this one. The song is still incredible. Moving on. The intro animation has been completely redone, and it looks clean. We got a revamped Barney silhouette, brighter colors, and the addition of this little idling motion before they strike the pose. I have no idea what it's supposed to be. Maybe a little boogie, but I like the pose they strike. Every single shot slaps, with the transformation scene being even better than before. But my favorite thing about this one comes during the line, Barney's friends are big and small, they come from lots of places. First we see Baby Bop and BJ, a perfect representation of big and small with the little sibling and the big sibling. Then we see Stella the storyteller, one of Barney's friends who's always in a different place. It's such a simple choice, but it's so insanely well thought out, it's genius. And that goes for most of the scenes, as a lot of the clips reflect the lyrics, which is always great to see. Everything is insanely on beat, with a ton of high energy moments, mostly pulled from Room for Everyone, the best Season 3 episode, plus a lot of dance heavy shots. But let's talk about these last 5 shots here, because as the song builds to a close, it might be the most exciting thing ever. They're running, they're pointing, they're throwing the confetti, and they're spinning, and they're ow! And then we get a brand new, digitally created, if you didn't know, tire swing shot with the new Barney doll. Everything here is a suit made of the best elements of all the things we've seen so far. This earns its spot at a high S tier. Good luck beating this one. Season 4 marked the beginning of a new era. New sets, new characters, a new child cast, and a whole new visual design for the season. And with it, we got a completely restyled intro. Musically, this one goes big. The arrangement has an even larger, fuller sound, stepping away from the earlier military-style elements and leaning into a more orchestral, almost big band feel. There are multiple new instruments, including an organ and a tuba, and the horns might be the best in the entire series. The kid vocals here are widely debated, but I think they're great. They sound so happy and excited, which in turn makes me excited. The only thing I don't love is the way they shout the "how to be a friend" line. It's a little much, but that's a minor nitpick. Visually, this intro has a really distinct aesthetic. It starts with a child watching a TV inside of a bluish purple room, and then we see in a fantastic stop motion paper art style, static on the TV, before transitioning into cutouts of the Barney silhouettes walking across a yellow construction paper background, all while confetti rains from the top of the screen. It's super creative and instantly recognizable. That being said, some of the elements do blend together because a lot of the colors are kind of dark and the confetti can feel a little bit cluttered, so you can't really see the final moments of the animation, but still it's a really cool effect. The shots used are fine, though not as perfectly timed as in Season 3. The return of using a Stella shot for "comes from lots of places" is great, and after being absent in Seasons 2 and 3, we finally get different shots for ABCs and 1, 2, 3s again. Thank goodness I wasn't gonna sleep this evening. I want you to pay attention to this Sunday shot, okay? Just look at it, study it, yeah? Okay. The absence of the tire swing shot is devastating. It's never coming back, and that makes me incredibly sad and is a point against any future intro. This is for sure an S tier, but it's tough to say whether or not it's better than Season 1. My opinion changes on the day, but for today, it's gonna be behind Season 1. Because as strong as it is musically, the visuals are lacking ever so slightly for me. Visuals as in the clips used. So for today, it's sitting at a low S tier, right behind Season 1. Season 5 I have much less to say about. Musically, it's the same as before, aside from the vocals. Now, most people either like Season 4's vocals and don't like Season 5 and 6's, or they're wrong. So yeah, I don't like this, or the next season's vocals nearly as much. In my opinion, they don't sound nearly as exciting, especially on that opening line. And maybe it's a placebo, but I swear they're just ever so slightly, like 0.2% off key. I've thought this for a while, and I think I'm correct, because I have a really good sense of being, like, tonally correct. So... Visually, the opening and closing animation are identical to Season 4. The unique transformation clip is gone, now just taken from an episode instead. A lot of the shots are reused from the previous intro, but hey, Mr. Boyd makes an appearance, that's always nice. I want you to look at this Sunday shot. Again. Here it is. It's just an alright intro. There's nothing super noteworthy about it, aside from the weaker vocals. B tier above Season 2. Season 6 is basically just Season 5, but with better shots, like the final evolution of this little subset of intros. Fun, unimportant fact, the crinkling paper overlay in the walking animation is slightly more transparent in this version. It doesn't matter, but now you know. The mix of old and new clips has a lot more energy than how they were presented in Season 5, which is a nice improvement. That being said, some of the cuts are a little weird and off time, and for some reason there are no ABCs or numbers shown during that line, which is always a weak point in my book. And of course, the Sunday clip. Again. Why did they use it this much? It's even funnier here because Keisha is in this shot as a child, and then in the very next shot, she's clearly much older. Visually, I think this is better than both Season 5 and 4, but it's held back by the same weak vocals. So here's our first A tier. Season 7 and 8 are the same intro, so they're getting put together. This was the first Hit Entertainment intro, and with this came with another entirely new intro style. This would be the second intro composed by Joe Phillips, having done Seasons 4 and 6, but my gosh, did he ever cook here. The song is given a redone modern approach. The military resemblance is completely gone, replaced with a very full, more modern sounding, big band, kids pop approach, and I cannot describe how hype this is musically. That opening just gets you going. It's probably the biggest dopamine rush I've ever gotten from a theme song. There are so many more additional instruments playing counter melodies underneath the ones that already exist. The bass, guitar, and the synth flute of all things does some incredible work here. The vocals are very solid and the most sanitized and clean they've ever been. Visually, the entire show from this point until its end would use a watercolor arts and crafts picture book aesthetic, and that's very much reflected here. We start with the Barney silhouette, walking solo on a rainbow backdrop before it folds open like paper to reveal the rest of the kids. A rainbow burst comes out and transforms them into different colors and spawns the logo. Some have referred to this opening and the entire intro as overkill, but to me it's a very natural evolution of the show's intro and cannot be understated as incredibly exciting. Diving into the clips now, all of them are framed in these little picture frames, sometimes 2 clips at a time, with different elements like butterflies, toys, or paint handprints and clay models with some occasional sound effects to go along with them, like cars beeping, really leaning into that educational aspect they were trying to push now. As for the clips themselves, they're alright. They're pretty well timed, it's cute, reminds me of season 1 a little actually. That being said, future versions of this intro have the colors a little more vibrant and I do prefer that. So this gets knocked just a little, but overall, quite good. High A tier. Some of these hit intros are going to start to get shorter descriptions due to how similar they are to each other, as the only difference is the clips used in the frames. Season 9. Gone is the Barney transformation clip in the beginning, now being moved to the end to transform into Barney on a white void. It's dumb. It's whatever. There's more stock footage used of kids than there was in season 7 and 8. That's something. Other than that, there's not much to say about it, other than the fact that it's not as good as season 7 and 8. High B tier. Here's another edge case. For those who don't know, when season 9 aired in the UK, the episodes were reshot to effectively remove the kids, and this was reflected in the intro. It's just season 9's intro, but any kid shot is replaced with a shot of the dinosaurs. It's sort of empty and eerie, and that's the best way UK season 9 can be described. Low B tier, because it kind of creeps me out. Now season 10, interestingly enough, is the exact same intro with different clips. It's more lively than season 9, with a lot more shots depicting quick movements or jumps, and it's got my beloved orange guy in there now, but you know, it's season 10 of Barney and Friends. This intro ends with 2 kids playing basketball before Barney transforms in front of them as the song ends, which kind of ends the intro underwhelmingly because we're like underplaying that amazing ending instrumentally. Low A tier. Okay, season 11 is the best hit intro. I'm not memeing ya. Every clip here has quite a bit of energy, although for some reason there's a transformation scene as the second clip, which is odd. For some reason I felt inclined to count how many times Baby Bop appeared in this intro, and it was only twice, and never by herself. She's not in most of the group shots, including the final one, which includes BJ and Riff. I love Baby Bop slander. Hey, they're sending him to Mars! Season 11 keeps the basketball ending, but adds a synth flute solo based on the opening melody, so Barney then transforms during the ending bit, which is way better than how it's done in season 10 because the song gets to dramatically play out after Barney is transformed. That and the solo is a cute little fun addition. Low S tier. I knew you'd get there eventually, guys. Season 12 is nothing special. You can kind of tell they're probably putting less effort into it. They have this really weird looking shot of Barney at the end, probably because the suit isn't a great design, but hey, we got the title cards back. Middle C tier, above OG Backyard Gang. This gets no more explanation. With a jump to widescreen, they needed to somehow find a way to take this 4x3 intro and turn it into 16:9. A lot of shows around this time redid their intros to accommodate this. Barney didn't. They just added this rainbow paper thing at the side and called it a day. The clips used are fine, nothing special again, except the opening clip is played through the entire Barney is a Dinosaur from Our Imagination line, which is odd because there's usually 2 clips for each line, but whatever. The shot of Barney flapping his arms looks so dumb. They also used the same strange looking ending shot of Barney from season 12. Riff split was the highlight of the intro. Season 13 gets above season 12 in C tier, moving on. Season 14, oh gosh, season 14. This is the era when Barney tried to be hip and cool by absolutely butchering the theme song. The instrumental is a travesty. They stripped away most of the orchestral elements, and without vocals, it barely even sounds like a song. The ending bit doesn't even resemble the song's actual melody anymore. And just when you think the vocals are mid, you realize they cut out the entire middle section and replaced it with the most awful rap verse of all time. Preceding the auditory masterpiece that was season 7 to 13 with this is quite literally the downgrade of the century, and we live in a world with this. Visually, they start with the previous intro animation as a bait and switch before abruptly cutting to a bunch of kids and Barney hip-hop dancing in a park. It is so cringe, and I don't say that word lightly. Next, Baby Bop, BJ, and Riff get a few seconds of screen time, but for some reason only Riff is audible. Then the radical Barnster skates by on his board, gets a kiss from a girl about the size of his head, and then hugs some kids. Oh, and let's not forget the ugly rainbow border around everything, because if you were lucky enough not to know, season 14 is just a compilation season. The only saving grace of this entire intro is this one kid. The absolute legend who does not know a single part of the choreography, but delivers with everything he's got. He's the GOAT. He's the GOAT! They should have made a season just with him. That being said, this intro sucks. If you want to see how I made it actually good, click that top right corner. But for now, we're stuck with this. F tier. Here's where it gets interesting. We're diving into the Barney Hebrew co-production. If you weren't aware, Barney wasn't just translated into Hebrew, it got its own unique production, filmed entirely in Israel and adapting episodes for Hebrew-speaking audiences. This is season 1 of the Hebrew adaptation, and musically, it borrows from the American season 2 intro. Visually, it also borrows season 2's intro animation, note the slight blue tint and shadowing behind the silhouettes. Technically, there are 2 versions of this intro, one with slightly different vocals, but that version was used incredibly infrequently, so I'll be referring to the main one. The vocals are cute, the kids' choir is on key, and honestly, I really like the lyrics, even though I don't entirely know what they're saying. Visually, you can tell this show had a lower budget than the American version, but honestly, I think that kinda adds to its unique charm. The opening includes some flying in beveled words that say, Hakavarim Shel Barney, the show's title, which is a cool touch, although you can still see some leftover black pixels from, I guess, when they removed the background. The clips used are a solid mix. Some clearly try to replicate season 1 intro shots in the right spots, while others are just original moments from the show. They reused the American season 3 tire swing shot, which is a little odd since the set is different, but hey, it's still welcome. Overall, pretty charming. This might shock some people, but it's going above season 6 in A tier. Season 2 of the Hebrew production is a lot rarer to come across, and unlike its predecessor, it was never released on DVD. The intro itself is definitely a lot weirder than season 1's. For starter, the timing on a good chunk of the shots is weird. Some are cut like halfway through the lines, or like 3/4 of the way. In terms of the clips, some try to replicate the American season 2 and 3 intros, some are leftovers from Hebrew season 1, and then some are just super weird. You can tell they were a little less tight with the quality control this time around. The post-transformation shot is weirdly in a fisheye lens, with Barney kinda just shaking his arms and not moving. Put this little beret on Barney is heat. Some of these shots, man, I gotta wonder what was the context behind them. It's an oddball for sure, but honestly, I take this over another retread of the hit intro any day. High B tier for this little guy. And finally, our last one, the Korean co-production. This co-production is actually mostly lost, which is a shame because it looks amazing. This intro is so good! It uses the American seasons 2 to 3 theme instrumentally and the visual aesthetic of American seasons 4 to 6, which is neat. The vocals might be the cutest thing ever. Again, I don't know what they're saying, but it sounds so audibly pleasing on the ears. I mentioned that it uses the season 4 to 6 visual style, but that's only for the intro and outro animation. In terms of the actual content, this might have the most unique visual identity out of any Barney intro. The shots get enclosed in these different shapes with bubbles, flowers, and bright colors filling the screen. It looks incredibly slick. Barney and the kids look so unabashedly happy in almost every shot, with a personal favorite of mine being this one. Look at his little party hat! And then, the icing on the cake. This little Barney appears in the corner and waves at us. It might just be the most adorable thing on the planet. Look at him go! Aww. That's the best way to describe this one. It's so cute. Above season 4 at S tier, and well deserved. And that is our ranking. But in case you need a refresher, we'll go over it in a more traditional list. Number 20, we got season 14. Number 19 is Campfire Sing-Along. Number 18 is the original Backyard Gang intro. Number 17 is season 12. Number 16 is season 13. Number 15 is the final Backyard Gang intro. Number 14 is the UK alternate version of season 9. Number 13 is season 2. Number 12 is season 5. Number 11 is season 9. Number 10 is Hebrew season 2. Number 9 is season 10. Number 8 is Season 6. Number 7 is Hebrew Season 1. Number 6 is Season 7 and 8 because they're identical. Number 5 is Season 11. Number 4 is Season 4. Number 3 is all the Korean seasons. Number 2 is Season 1. And number 1 is Season 3. I hope you enjoyed this video, and let me know how you'd rank the intros below. Remember, opinions are opinions and we can all have our own. The tier list and video of every intro are in the description if you'd like to make one of your own. Thanks for watching.